The day before her graduate school entrance exam, I discover my long-term girlfriend's emotional infidelity. In their text messages, that man kept reminding her not to be nervous about tomorrow's exam. No wonder she always seemed distracted whenever I told her we'll definitely succeed together. Turns out there was already an upperclassman waiting for her at the finish line. One on the day before her graduate school entrance exam, a cold winter day, Chloe and I met up for hot pot to ease our frayed nerves. After the meal, Chloe went to the bathroom and forgot her phone. A man labeled as senior kept messaging her. I picked up her phone and glanced at the screen, finding nothing but intimate greetings. Did you eat enough, Chloe? It's cold out, dress warmly. So you don't catch a chill, don't stress about tomorrow's first exam. Just do your best. I'll be waiting for you at school, ready to guide you through research hand in hand. I never had the habit of checking phones and had always trusted Chloe completely, but after seeing that unusual intimacy, I still opened her phone and began scrolling through their chat history. They had met half a year ago. This senior was a first-year graduate student at the very university Chloe dreamed of attending. The messages weren't explicit or particularly flirtatious, but they shared details of their daily lives and discussed future aspirations and dreams. From childhood anecdotes to current experiences, from academic challenges to expectations of an ideal partner, they talked about everything. Late at night, they would occasionally have long phone calls that lasted for hours, falling asleep to the sound of each other's breathing. They cared about each other as well, being ordered takeout for one another, exchanged gifts, and after intense study sessions, they would encourage each other, promising to work hard together at the same university in the future. Chloe and I met in middle school back then. We were desk mates who constantly bickered, neither willing to yield, yet neither able to stay apart. We only started dating after graduating from high school. It was a love that grew over time, as natural as water flowing in its course. Our parents were colleagues in government departments, living in neighboring communities, just a street apart. The families got along well, often visiting each other for meals. After Chloe and I got together, we didn't hide our relationship and told our families early on. The two families were already close, and after Chloe and I became a couple, the bond grew even stronger. Everyone thought we were a match made in heaven, the perfect pair, and even started making plans for our future early on, arranging for us to marry after completing our studies. I have a quieter personality, while Chloe is more lively, perhaps because our temperaments complemented each other. We never had any arguments during all these years together, and any accidental conflicts were quickly resolved. Chloe was the type to make unreasonable demands. She was sensible, occasionally throwing small tantrums, but would always apologize to me on her own after calming down. I would save seats for her in large lectures, and she would bring me water and towels when I played basketball. When the weather turned cold, I'd give her gloves and hand warmers, while she'd secretly knit me scarves as sudden surprises. Neither of us minded the other, having friends of the opposite sex, understanding it was an unavoidable part of life, but we both knew we had to take responsibility for each other and our relationship, avoiding any ambiguous connections. After all these years, from meeting Chloe to being in a relationship, she couldn't possibly have been unaware that crossing boundaries with another man would destroy what we had, yet she did it anyway for half a year without ever mentioning it to me. After reading Chloe's chat history with her senior, I felt an indescribable sadness, no hysteria, no anger. Coming back to my senses, I silently marked the messages as unread, returned the phone to its original spot, and pretended nothing had happened. The exams begin tomorrow. Whatever needs to be addressed can wait until after they're over. Chloe returned from the restroom, looking slightly anxious, but relaxed when she saw her phone undisturbed. Smiling, she told me she was full and suggested we head back. I nodded in agreement and went back to the hotel with Chloe. The whole way, Chloe kept telling me not to feel pressured, saying things like just perform normally in the exam, while occasionally taking out her phone to reply to messages from that senior. After returning to the hotel and freshening up, we went to bed early without much conversation. The exams over the next few days proceeded as scheduled. When all subjects were finished, Chloe happily ran out of the exam hall, threw herself into my arms, and proudly said she had performed well in the last subject. The pressure of this year's studies was finally over. I looked down at Chloe in my arms, who was so overwhelmed she couldn't hold back her tears, and smiled on my face, but a pang of bitterness welled up in my heart. Was it all over now? Yes, it was over. After packing our luggage, Chloe and I returned to school that same day and had hot pot together again. In the evening, Chloe said it was called ending as we began. After dinner, heavy snow began to fall from the sky. Without an umbrella, we ended up with snow covering our heads like white hair on our way back. As usual, I walked Chloe to her dormitory building. After a simple goodbye, watching her skip away, my mind momentarily blurred, as if seeing all the times Chloe had thrown herself into my arms over the years and all the reluctant partings we shared. This was the first time I'd seen Chloe off, but somehow this time I felt an inexplicable sadness. I knew all too well that the bond between Chloe and me had cracked, and we could never go back to how things were. I stood there blankly watching Chloe disappear from sight until a cold gust of wind snapped me out of my daze. Looking up at the snowflakes filling the sky, I let out a soft sigh and turned to leave. The school paths were already blanketed in silver with streetlights illuminating the falling snow. On my way back, I saw many couples walking hand in hand through the snow, and a melancholic song lyric suddenly came to mind. It roughly meant, when an old love passes through your heart, what remains is a winter full of scars. We were all beneath the same heavy snowfall in this lifetime, we've essentially gone gray hair together. Though I knew such thoughts didn't quite fit the current mood, there was still a trace of empathy that allowed me to indulge in melancholy. Returned to the dorm, I calmly packed my luggage, took a shower, and then lay down on the bed. I wasn't sleepy, just lying there in the darkness, staring blankly at the ceiling as my thoughts drifted away with the heavy snow outside the window. One weekend evening during senior year of high school, as the new year approached, the school suddenly lost power, plunging the entire classroom into darkness. The power outage disrupted the original study atmosphere, but also provided a much-needed excuse for respite in our tense senior year of high school. Chloe, in our desk, mates afraid of the dark, she clutched my arm tightly after the blackout, asking me what we should do. I put away my pen, reassuring her it was okay. Watching the noisy classroom, I hesitated before finally reaching out to put my arm around Chloe's shoulders. At my touch, Chloe's body noticeably stiffened, but gradually relaxed as she leaned her head against me little by little. At such close distance, I could smell the faint fragrance in Chloe's hair and feel the warmth radiating from her body. The school, plunged into darkness, was filled with constant clamor as everyone released the pressure from studying. No matter how much the teachers tried to maintain order, they couldn't restrain the restless hearts of these young boys and girls. Coincidentally, fireworks began bursting in a square outside the school. Since Chloe and I were seated by the window, we had a clear view of the rockets shooting skyward before exploding in brilliant displays. As the fireworks ballooned, their dazzling lights briefly illuminated the classroom. Amidst the colorful radiance, I glanced down at Chloe and saw her delighted expression and the fireworks reflected in her eyes. Chloe noticed my gaze, our eyes met, and held neither of us looking away. The emotions long suppressed in the hearts of the boy and girl burst forth like fireworks in that moment. In the intervals between the flashes of light, the classroom plunged back into darkness. Suddenly, I felt something soft touch my lips, leaving me frozen in place. As the fireworks bloomed again, their glow revealed Chloe's south face, so close to mine, and I saw the blush creeping up her neck from shyness. Half an hour later, the power was restored, and the classroom brightened. Once more, everyone returned to their studies, as if nothing had changed during the blackout. Yet somehow, everything felt different. Under the table, two hands were tightly clasped together, neither willing to let go first. In a daze, I fell asleep, and when I woke up the next day, it was already 8 in the morning. I got out of bed, dressed, booked a ticket home for the day, and then unhurriedly began to wash up. After finishing, I stood on the balcony with the luggage I had packed the night. Before looking at the campus, now thickly covered in snow, after much hesitation, I finally took out my phone and sent Chloe the breakup message. No questions asked, no explanations given, just those simple yet heavy words: let us break up. After sending the message, I felt as if a weight had been lifted off my shoulders. After hesitating for a few seconds, I turned off my phone and hurried out to the station. Walking alone to the station, my heart felt hollow, as if a piece of it had been carved out. Throughout my college years, I had always left home and returned with Chloe by my side. I had grown accustomed to having company on the road, and now, suddenly alone, I felt not just loss, but also a tinge of unease. I'm a bit worried. All these years I've been the one planning our trips and buying the train tickets. Chloe has never traveled far alone, not even on her way back home. I worry she might not get the right ticket, worry she might get scammed on the road, worry she might get lost. Only then did I understand the saying I once read: when you truly love someone, the most direct manifestation is heartache. You feel worse than her when she is sad, and it pains you deeply when she suffers. It's like eating instant noodles. You might not think much of it when you eat it yourself, but when someone you love eats it, you feel terrible. Your heart aches for them. You don't want the person you love to suffer, feel sad, or be heartbroken, and you're even willing to bear those hardships for her. On the way to the station, turbulent waves of emotion surged one after another, making me almost turn back at times. Fortunately, reason ultimately triumphed over longing. Anchored by the chat records I'd seen that day, anchored by the desolation after years of shattered affection. I boarded the bus home alone, drifting in and out of consciousness throughout the journey, arriving in the afternoon. Is Chloe awake? Yet she probably is. Has she seen the message? She must have by now. Does she know why I broke up with her? She should know by now. She understood better than anyone how I would react upon discovering her relationship with that senior, yet she still chose to do it. Was it for novelty or a passing whim? Had our feelings grown stale, or was there someone better? I don't know, nor do I want to know. From discovering the chat history to the breakup, I've exhausted every effort to remain calm, forcing myself to handle these matters like an outsider without shedding a tear. Only after returning to my room did I turn on my phone. As expected, there were missed calls and endless messages. I didn't read them, just silently deleted the contact and blocked all means of communication. No explanations or apologies were needed between us, she knew. I slept alone in my room until evening when my parents woke me. Stepping out, I unexpectedly found Chloe in the living room. By this time, Chloe had already explained the situation to my parents and sincerely bowed her head in apology. Her disheveled appearance suggested she must have woken up seeing my messages, tried repeatedly to contact me, and when she couldn't reach me, guessed I'd gone home, prompting her to buy a train ticket and rush over. Since Chloe and I had long since made our relationship public to my family, my parents were quite familiar with her. After learning why we'd broken up, they didn't make too big a deal of it. After all, Chloe had only been chatting frequently online with that senior student and occasionally talking on the phone. They never actually met in person. And the two of them never discussed anything explicit, just that their relationship had crossed a certain line. My parents thought I was just being petty and advised me as a man to be more magnanimous. Everyone makes mistakes, they said, and as long as it wasn't an unforgivable one, sincere repentance would make everything right. Chloe and I had known each other for so many years, been together for so long. They had long since accepted her as their daughter-in-law and weren't about to change that. Sitting on the sofa, I listened to my parents' earnest advice and watched Chloe, who sat across from me, head bowed in remorse, her attitude sincere, yet my heart remained calm, unmoved by their pleas or her apology. A shattered mirror, no matter how well repaired, will still bear glaring cracks. That night my parents tried to persuade me for a long time, but couldn't change my mind. Helpless, they could only postpone the matter, sending Chloe home, intending to wait until my anger subsided in a couple of days. But was I really angry? Searching my heart, I wasn't angry with Chloe at all. There was no rage, no resentment, just disappointment, that's all. In this fast-paced society, where everyone seems to be experiencing instant noodle romances, Chloe and I were among the rare few who simmered our relationship over a slow fire. We understood each other, loved each other, and resisted being dragged into the mud by various temptations from the outside world. After all these years together, I thought Chloe and I could continue like this forever, joining hands to declare war against this emotionally promiscuous society. But I lost completely in the end. Chloe couldn't withstand the temptations from outside after all. I don't actually blame Chloe. After all, we're both just ordinary people, and staying committed to each other for so long is already quite rare. I know all too well how terrifying those temptations from the outside world can be because I've experienced them firsthand. When I first entered university, perhaps because I was relatively tall and good-looking, quite a few girls expressed their interest in me. Some were shy and subtle, others bold and passionate. Some had elegant charm and striking beauty, while others had wonderful personalities and graceful figures. Chloe and I attended the same university, but we were in different majors and colleges, sometimes even studying on separate campuses. Most of the time, we only saw each other during elective classes or on weekends. Given those circumstances, faced with temptations that were almost within reach, how could I claim my heart never wavered? I'm a normal man, of course. I did feel a stir when I saw a beautiful woman, but I was also a man with a girlfriend. So I let those moments pass, and during them, I had to take responsibility for the relationship between Chloe and me. Precisely because I understood the inner conflict and struggle when temptation lies within easy reach, I didn't blame Chloe. I wasn't angry or resentful, just disappointed, deeply disappointed. Alone in my room late at night, insomnia gripped me. My gaze wandered around before finally settling on a Totoro plush toy. During the summer, after the college entrance exams, Chloe and I could finally be together openly. When our parents found out, they didn't object. In fact, they all looked like they long expected us to end up together. It was Chloe's and my first proper date. We started at the amusement park, trying out many thrilling rides. Neither of us were particularly brave. Chloe wasn't, and neither was I, yet somehow these two timid souls found themselves boarding a roller coaster together. Is the roller coaster fun? I can't really say. All I know is that once the ride started, Chloe and I held each other's hands tightly, letting the weightlessness and dizziness wash over us, neither of us letting go. After barely making it through, both Chloe and I were pale-faced, looking like we were about to throw up. Yet even though we felt so awful, we still burst into laughter after exchanging a glance. We didn't know why we were laughing. It just felt inexplicably joyful. After resting at the amusement park until we felt better, we left and headed to the arcade in a nearby mall, exchanging for a basket of tokens and playing games to our heart's content all afternoon. Until we were down to our last dozen coins, Chloe and I finally approached the claw machine. Having spent over a decade immersed in intense academic lives, we weren't particularly skilled at claw machines. It took us more than a dozen tries to barely manage grabbing one plush toy, the Totoro doll, that now sits on my study desk. After all these years, the Totoro plush has long lost its original brightness. Perhaps from too many washes its colors have somewhat faded. If plush toys fade with time, does that mean feelings do too? I didn't TC Chloe again in the following days, just as I had booked my tickets and was preparing to go on a trip after New Year's Day. To clear my mind, my high school friend Mike informed me that he had organized a class reunion on New Year's Eve, saying it had been so many years since we last saw each other, and it was time to reconnect. Back in high school, I was the class representative, and he specifically called to insist I attend. I had no reason to refuse, so I showed up on time at the pre-booked private dining room of the restaurant. Walking in, I saw there weren't many people, just 7 or 8, but they were all close friends from high school. Seeing me arrive, my classmates were very welcoming, especially Mike, who gave me the big bear hug and teased, "Ethan, you've changed a lot over the years, looking even more handsome. If I weren't a guy, I'd have given Chloe a run for her money back then." By the way, Mike gestured toward a corner of the private room. "Chloe arrived earlier than you and saved you a seat. Go on over." I looked in the direction Mike indicated and saw Chloe sitting alone in the corner with no one around her. Noticing my gaze, Chloe looked up at me expectantly, clearly hoping I'd sit beside her. Now we'd already broken up, I forced a casual laugh, patted Mike's hand, and took the empty seat across from Chloe instead. Hearing my words, the private room suddenly fell silent as everyone exchanged glances. Everyone present was familiar with us, and they all knew Chloe and I had been dating for years, from high school graduation through college, without ever breaking up. Among our classmates, Chloe and I were considered the most likely to marry early, with friends repeatedly urging us to set a wedding date so they could attend. But today I announced that Chloe and I had broken up suddenly, without warning, leaving everyone momentarily unable to process the news. "Why is everyone so quiet? The food's getting cold." "Dig in," I said as I sat down, trying to lighten the mood. I acted perfectly normal, yet completely abnormal, because I deliberately ignored Chloe's intense gaze fixed on me from across the private dining room. Though everyone was dying to know why Chloe and I had broken up, this was still a class reunion. After all, no one pressed further, and the atmosphere gradually returned to normal as old memories were shared. Now, though we're all adults, drinking at gatherings became inevitable. I had a few drinks myself. I'm not much of a drinker, just one glass makes my face flush and my head spin. Perhaps emboldened by the alcohol, Mike, sitting beside me, threw an arm around my neck and whispered drunkenly in my ear, "Ethan, out of all the people in this world, the probability of 2 people meeting is already so low, and the chance of them falling in love after meeting is even lower now at a 10-year time frame to that." He said he could tell Chloe still couldn't let me go, and if there hadn't been any fundamental betrayal between Chloe and me, we really shouldn't break up. He told me what he envied most all these years was Chloe and me, how we understood and loved each other. "Fate works in mysterious ways," he said, "and some people once missed can never be found again in this lifetime." Mike confided many heartfelt words to me, and I understood his meaning perfectly. Yet the more people around us tried to persuade me to reconcile with Chloe, the more bitterness welled up in my heart. How could I not know how rare it is for 2 people to progress from acquaintance to love? It's been 10 years since Chloe and I first met. How many decades does a person even have in their lifetime? Let alone that these 10 years were the most precious of my life, my entire youth. In these most precious 10 years, Chloe and I have been everything to each other. It wouldn't be an exaggeration to say we were the most important people in each other's lives besides our immediate family. Such precious 10 years, such rare affection. Wouldn't it be a pity if it ended like this? If it weren't a pity, Mike wouldn't have persuaded me to reconcile with Chloe. But can this relationship ever return to what it once was? With this thought, I snapped back to reality and looked at Chloe sitting across from me. From the moment I entered the private dining room, Chloe kept staring at me. Even after the dishes were served, she didn't touch her chopsticks. And when classmates tried talking to her, she responded absent-mindedly. She just sat there quietly watching me, as if trying to see reluctance in my eyes, trying to see my love for her. When our gazes met, I noticed Chloe looked unwell today, her face thin, her lips pale, eyes bloodshot with deep dark circles beneath them. It was hard to imagine how Chloe had been these past few days, how heartbroken she must have been, what regrets and pain she'd endured. Seeing the person I deeply love looking so haggard, even I couldn't help but feel a pang of heartache. Despite my usual aloofness, I spoke up, "Have something to eat first, then let us take a walk together afterwards." Hearing me speak and realizing I was addressing Chloe, our classmates instinctively fell silent, giving us space to talk. Chloe seemed momentarily stunned by my words, taking several seconds to respond before nodding with a hoarse voice, "Okay." After I suggested taking a walk with Chloe after dinner, the atmosphere at the table noticeably lightened. Our classmates joked about how perfect we were together, insisting we never break up, and that they were looking forward to attending our wedding banquet someday. At the dinner table, I controlled my eating pace, not putting down my chopsticks until I was sure Chloe had eaten her fill. After finishing her meal, color finally returned to Chloe's face. She looked more energetic than before, no longer appearing on the verge of fainting. When the time felt right, I suggested to Chloe that we take a walk outside together. Before we left, Mike reminded me that it was cold outside, and I shooed tea, let Chloe catch a chill. He suggested we could talk things over slowly at a milk tea shop. Whatever misunderstandings we had could be resolved. I casually responded, then closed the private room door and turned to walk out of the restaurant. Chloe quietly followed behind me, head lowered, saying nothing, carefully watching my footsteps as if afraid to lose me. Outside the restaurant, the snow had stopped. I glanced around, momentarily unsure where to go, then decided to head toward the nearest milk tea shop. We walked in silence, Chloe equally quiet, until we entered the shop. Only then did I turn to her, still red bean, milk tea, half sugar. Chloe looked up at me and nodded softly, I skillfully ordered the milk tea, then sat down with Chloe at a table by the window. After sitting down, gazing at the scattered pedestrians outside the window, I suddenly remembered one New Year's Day when we were also at this milk tea shop. That day, Chloe had a cold, but insisted on drinking milk tea. Unable to dissuade her, I brought her here. After the milk tea arrived, Chloe sat by the window with flushed cheeks bundled up in thick layers. She cradled the steaming cup in both hands, sipping it in small hamster-like gulps while occasionally grinning foolishly at me, murmuring about how delicious the tea was. At that time, I only found her adorable and amusing, patting her head affectionately as I reminded her to take her medicine properly when she got home. As memories flooded back, I glanced at Chloe across the table. The figure from the past gradually overlapped with her present self. It was her, yet somehow no longer her. I sighed softly, an involuntary flicker of loneliness passing through my eyes. Chloe noticed the change in me, biting her lip as her voice trembled slightly. Ethan Collins, do you really not want me anymore? Hearing Chloe's words, my heart quivered and I lowered my head, unable to meet her eyes. Though I'd already proposed breaking up, I couldn't bear to imagine what life without Chloe would be like. Under Chloe's intense gaze, it took me a long while to muster the courage to speak. On my birthday after dinner, when you said you were going back to the dorm to study, you were actually on the phone with him, weren't you? I don't remember much of the chat history between Chloe and that senior student, only some key moments, one of them being my birthday. Hearing my question, Chloe slowly withdrew her gaze, lowered her head in silence for a moment, then nodded. Seeing this, my heart inexplicably ached, tears welling up my eyes. That time you said you had period cramps when I brought medicine to your dorm and called you were on another call. Was it with him? Watching my reaction, Chloe felt a sharp pang in her chest, 2 silent tears slipping down her cheeks unnoticed. I took a deep breath, tilting my head back to keep the tears from falling. On the day of your graduate school application, you received new study materials and asked me to pick them up. When you opened the package, there was a card with well wishes inside. You said it was from a senior student, and I even joked about how beautiful her handwriting was, but it wasn't from a senior student. It was from him, right? As I spoke these words, even with my head tilted back, tears still overflowed. Finally, I understood why I had been so determined to break up with Chloe, because there were too many traces of another person's presence in our shared life. The inexplicable gifts that appeared out of nowhere, the early nights when she claimed to be unwell, the long waits for replies to messages. During those 6 months of preparing for the graduate entrance exam, I was completely focused on my studies with no extra energy for wild thoughts or any suspicion toward Chloe. I believed, because I trusted that Chloe would remain steadfast just like me. But I was wrong, so wrong in that belief. What truly breaks my heart, that Chloe deceived me, but that I can never again trust her unconditionally. Seeing my devastation, Chloe finally couldn't hold back. She reached out and gripped me tightly, her body, trembling voice choked with sobs. I was wrong, Ethan. I truly know I was wrong. I've completely cut ties with him, and I won't go to that university anymore. Can we just start over? Listening to Chloe's apology, I closed my eyes without looking at her, letting tears stream down my cheeks. I didn't know what to do. My heart was conflicted. I wanted to forget those painful memories, but they stood out like an ink stain on white paper, glaring and impossible to ignore. If Chloe hadn't fully understood my despondency, before hadn't grasped why I was so resolute about ending our 10-year relationship, she understood now. Our lives had become entangled with too many shadows of others. Putting myself in her shoes, if I had been the one to betray our love, Chloe would have just as decisively chosen to walk away. From the deep affection of our youth until now, the bond between us has always been pure, so pure that it couldn't tolerate even a grain of sand, let alone such a glaring ink stain. This was the foundation that allowed Chloe and me to walk hand in hand through so many years, and it would also be the reason our long-standing relationship shattered. If Chloe and I had been just ordinary partners who experienced other relationships before, this matter might have been resolved with a sincere apology. Yet the problem was we were each other's most perfect first love, the most beautiful memory in each other's hearts. If we could hold on in this emotional state, there's no doubt we could walk hand in hand through life together. But if one of us fails to hold on, the only outcome would be complete loss. Yet neither Chloe nor I are willing to face such an ending now, unwilling to accept that a decade of feelings could conclude so abruptly. I didn't respond to Chloe's request to reconcile, only offering to walk her home. Instead, Chloe stared at me with swollen red eyes, biting her lip tightly, but ultimately remained silent and nodded in agreement. Leaving the milk tea shop, the streets were bitterly cold. Chloe and I walked side by side through the snow-covered streets, our steps slow, both aware that opportunities like this would be rare in the days to come. No matter how slow our steps may be, time neither reverses nor stops, and eventually we reached the end. Before the community gate, we stood in silence, neither of us speaking the first farewell. How could we begin with these 10 years of inseparable companionship, these 10 years of shared laughter, these most unforgettable 10 years? I didn't know how to say it, and neither did Chloe. The winter night's wind was cold, both the wind and our hearts. At some point, snowflakes began drifting down from the sky again. I watched them settle on Chloe's hair, saw the cold wind tousle her strands, and reached out to smooth them only to pause midair. A wave of sorrow washed over me, but I forced a light tone. Your hair is messy. Chloe snapped out of her daze, eyes brimming with tears, forcing a smile. One tea, you fix it for me. Amid the swirling snow, Chloe's figure seemed even more fragile. How I longed to hold her tight, but no longer knew what right I had to do so. I forced myself to look away from Chloe, turning my gaze toward the distant sky. No thanks. Hearing my reply, Chloe seemed drained of her last bit of spirit, her eyes dimming as she turned to gaze at the distant sky with me. At that very moment, a dazzling streak of light shot up into the distant sky, bursting forth in a brilliant display of fireworks. The glow of the fireworks illuminated both Chloe and me, the scene uncannily reminiscent of that fireworks display during the blackout in our senior year of high school. But now I didn't look into Chloe's eyes again, letting her captivating gaze remain fixed on me. As fireworks burst open one after another in the sky, pedestrians on the street stopped to admire the dazzling display. Some took out their phones to record, others eagerly shared the moment with companions nearby, while a young couple embraced beneath the fireworks and couldn't resist kissing. Hearing the voices around me and watching different people's reactions to the fireworks, I suddenly smiled. Chloe, look, fireworks. Hearing this, Chloe withdrew her gaze and looked at the fireworks blooming in the distant sky, tear stains already tracing her cheeks, without her realizing, yes, they're really beautiful. After New Year's Day, I went on a solo trip to clear my mind. I visited many places alone, saw countless beautiful sights, and sampled numerous delicacies, yet somehow I just couldn't feel happy. I used to long so much to travel, to experience the local customs and cultures of different places. On a shuttle bus heading to a scenic area, I saw a couple playing and laughing together, sharing the same snack, watching the same movie, and listening to the same song. The bumpy mountain road of the scenic area didn't leave them weary as they sat down, their eyes filled only with affection for each other. The exam starts tomorrow. Let us discuss everything after it's over. I've never been one to enjoy long journeys, finding car rides exhausting, outings troublesome, and expenses too high. I have many reasons to avoid going out, yet there's always one that makes me willing. Chloe. After that night, Chloe and I reconnected on social media, but neither of us sent any messages. I didn't know what Chloe had been up to lately, how she was doing, whether she was happy or sad, warm or cold, or if she ever felt lonely. After a 2-hour drive, I arrived at the scenic area, still having not sent Chloe a message. As soon as I got off the car, I started climbing the mountain step by step toward the summit, letting the wind and snow howl around me. I didn't know why I come to climb the mountain or why I was so determined to reach the top, but I just kept going one step at a time. The view from the mountaintop was breathtaking, with thick layers of clouds beneath our feet and warm sunlight spilling over us, gradually dispelling the fatigue from the climb. Faced with this fairy tale-like scenery, I couldn't resist taking out my phone, eager to share it with someone. Scrolling through my contacts, my finger eventually paused over Chloe's profile picture. After hesitating for a few seconds, I sent her a message. You there? I had just sent the message and hadn't even had time to turn off my phone when Chloe replied, here. Seeing Chloe's reply, I raised my phone to snap a photo of the scenery before me and sent it to her. Very beautiful. After sending the message, I turned off my phone and rubbed my face stiff from the cold, wondering how Chloe would respond. Just as my mind began to wander, Chloe's reply came a sentence and a photo. You're more beautiful. I froze when I saw the message. Opening the photo, I was met with Chloe's smiling face and a familiar figure in the background. Putting together the surroundings in the photo, I suddenly turned around and came face to face with Chloe's radiant smile. In the cold mountain wind, Chloe's small face was flushed red from the chill, yet she smiled so brightly that her teeth showed. Under the warm sunlight, Chloe stepped up to me, straightened her posture, and confidently extended her hand with a dazzling smile. Ethan Collins, let me reintroduce myself. I'm Chloe Miller, and starting today, I'm going to pursue you. I hope you won't be ungrateful. Hearing Chloe's words, I was momentarily speechless. When I came to my senses, I smiled, tears welling up uncontrollably in my eyes. The previous decade ended on that New Year's Eve, but Chloe didn't let go. She chose to begin the next decade, or rather all the decades to come. After everything we'd been through, after all the times I rejected her request to reconcile, making this decision undoubtedly required astonishing courage, yet she came anyway, undeterred by the possibility of rejection or failure. Faced with such a courageous Chloe, how could Ethan Collins possibly retreat? He held her hand, his face beaming with an equally radiant smile. Great, the end.